Hey, hey, how is everyone? I'm Chris Thomas, and this is Land Flipping 101, where you can learn how to earn your financial freedom through land investing, even if you're a complete beginner with no experience, because I am sharing with you guys how I am successfully doing it. I'm going after larger payoffs and fewer deals, targeting retail values of at least $40,000 with the goal of doubling my investment and then, whenever possible, using simultaneous or double closing strategies to reduce risk. My phone's going crazy. The key to my success has been consistent daily action. I just send mail each and every week without fail. And if you take the steps and send the mail, you'll find success too. This is a proven business model, and you'll find deals if you take the steps. So you can start as small or as large as you like. You can invest your own money, or you can use one of dozens of investment options, such as a double close, without risking any of your own money. If you have any questions, just reach out to me by posting a question on this page or in this chat. Hi, Frank. Or you can send me a private message. I really love to hear about your journey and like to know what brought you here and what your real estate experience has been up to this point, what you're hoping to learn. Today's topic is the Perk Test. But first, a question from Anthony Villalobos. He said, how do you go about a seller trying to back out of a contract for no reason besides they don't want to sell anymore? And actually, Anthony, this has happened to me. Sadly, for the seller, changing your mind is considered a breach of contract. It's not a recognizable, valid reason per most state laws. At least in the case of my deal, that one was in North Carolina, and the seller had to sell to me. But you will need to find a litigator. Ask your title company for a referral. In my case, I made about $20,000 on that deal, so $1,000 on a litigator to send a letter and make a few phone calls was definitely worth it. But you can also avoid problems by filing an Affidavit of Memorandum of Agreement, also known as the A&M. This is not the purchase agreement. The purchase agreement should never be filed with the courts. The A&M is just a simple one-page letter that declares your interest in the property and your agreement with the seller, and it just puts it on public notice. As long as the seller closes with you as agreed, they'll never know that you even filed it. This is a document that you will file with the county's recorder office. Heidi, welcome. You said you messaged me and you need to get an answer fast. Okay, I'll get to you as soon as I hang up on this Facebook Live. Today's topic is the Perk Test, because one thing that has the potential to make or break a land deal is the Perk Test. And that's just short for the word percolation. And percolation is what happens when water, like rainwater, hits the soil and then drains through. And the reason why it's important is because a lot of properties out there do not have access to a nearby sewer system. So if you ever want to build a house or a dwelling of any kind where someone needs to use the bathroom, you're going to have a way to flush the toilet, right? And for that wastewater to go to the appropriate place. And so you need a septic system in place. And it's just a giant underground tank where all the wastewater goes, and it overflows into the soil, and the soil will need to clean the water before it goes back to the natural system underground. So that's the function of it. They're actually important, and as gross as they are, in order for them to work properly, the soil that it's in has to be able to pass a Perk test, which means that when the wastewater goes into the soil, it needs to be able to drain properly. And so there are a lot of places around the country where, it's just too compact or the soil is too dense. And if there's a lot of clay, for example, then it would take forever for the water to go through and wouldn't pass. So basically it would be a massive problem if somebody's trying to build a house there, right? So you can see why it would be important for someone to know whether or not a property passes the Perk test. Now, in most jurisdictions around the country, the way that a Perk test works is you just, like in Tennessee where I live, we just call the state health department, and someone from that office comes out to the property to perform the test for us. Now in Nashville, where I live, I mean, I'm sure you all have looked around and noticed that this market is hot as can be, and Nashville just seems like it's getting hotter and hotter. And usually it costs anywhere between 150 to 1,500, but in my area right now, the minimum amount of time it takes to get someone, a soil scientist, out to check your soil could be 8 weeks. And so it really kind of depends. The price and the timing really depends on what the county feels like charging. I've paid $800 recently, but it can be $1,500. So it depends on what they feel like charging, like I said. And all they're really doing is just digging a hole in the ground. They're just putting water in it and then timing how long it takes for that water to drain through the soil. And if it doesn't drain fast enough, it's going to fail the perk test. So, all right, let's see if we have any questions. What are the key elements in selecting the areas that I mail to? Kevin, great question. Thank you for posting it. The main thing I'm looking for is there more being sold than for sale? In other words, is there a demand on that area and not enough supply? But back to the perk test, I think you really have to ask yourself a few questions about whether or not you should invest in one on a piece of property. How much are you paying for the property? Are you planning to own the property, or are you just going to wholesale it, or are you just going to double close it or simultaneously close it? And how much do you stand to make? I have a property right now where my contract to purchase is about to run out. In fact, it runs out on Monday. So I'm going to buy it today. In fact, I'm sitting here right now with my escrow or my HUD statement here. I'm buying it for $75,000. My county taxes are $569. Settlement fee to the title company is only $450 because they know I'm going to close with them on the other end too. And so I have to pay, let's see. The taxes. The taxes are, there's a recording fee of $12, a transfer tax to the Register of Deeds for $278. I'm gonna release my memorandum of agreement concerning real estate, that A&M I mentioned a minute ago, and they'll charge me $12 to do that. So for the $75,000 piece of property, I'm going to be buying it today outright for $76,321.25. I haven't done a perk test on this property, but guess what? I'm about to. I really believe this is a good area. It's a very strong market. It's got road frontage. It has all the other attributes, and the original plat map shows that originally they had it perked for a 3-bedroom house. So I'm going to go ahead. It's 2 6-acre parcels that are side by side, and each of them back then perked for a house, a 3-bedroom house. So I feel like I'm rolling the dice a little bit on it, but I think I've got a good reason to go ahead and do it. Once I did have a property that I ended up having to buy, and there were so many problems with this property, but I ended up buying it outright. It was like 6 acres. I spent about $43,000 on it, and my intent was to double close, but for some reason it didn't go through, so I ended up having to buy it. Well, I sent someone out there to do a perk test, and they just did a preliminary report because the trees were so thick. There was too much underbrush. They really couldn't get in there. So, because you really have to dig a hole to test it, and then you have to dig it in multiple different areas because this area over here might not pass, but that area over there might, and they've really got to look at everything. Well, he did a preliminary report, and he's like, I don't really think it's going to perk. And so, but I could do a full test for another $2,000 or whatever he was quoting that I thought was astronomical. And I said, no, don't do it. Because then if you do it and then it doesn't perk, then I know. And then I'm forced, ethically, I need to disclose that. So right now I can tell people, I don't know if it perks. So, people wanted to build a house there. And, if that's the main use, then it doesn't perk, you're out of luck. So all of a sudden I was really scared. I thought, what am I going to do with this property? And I had to get really creative. I was looking at using it as a campsite, renting out campsite spaces because I'd heard that was a thing. I looked into storing vehicles. I looked at RV camps. I looked at compostable toilets. I looked at every option that you could. And I will say, what I ultimately told people is that, with today's technology, there's many alternatives to in-ground septic systems. And if you go to the EPA's website, the Environmental Protection Agency, I think it's epa.gov, you can see a whole list of the mound system and all the other types of alternative septic systems. So I really don't let people give me that as an excuse for why I should give them more of a discount than what I'm already giving, because I'm trying to sell it at such a good price. But as we all know, I will go down on my price, but that's usually a conversation that we're having. So just be careful when looking at that. And also be careful looking at neighboring properties, because if they look at the next door neighbor and they see that there's a house over there, that doesn't necessarily mean that your property will perk. So just because it perked over there doesn't mean it'll perk over here. One thing that has helped me is I found the Web Soil Survey. If you just go online and just search Web Soil Survey, this is the USDA's national mapping service, if you will, of soil types across the country, and you can get a pretty good idea of what kind of soil is on your land. The next step would be to understand what that soil type is able to do, if it perks or not, and so it's just a little more research. I would do that first before I invest in a perk site, but that is just me. Jonathan, what was my offer on that? Oh, on the one I'm selling, or the one I'm buying today, is $75,000. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Let's see. I see a few more people have joined in. Welcome. Hi, Jermelda Jackson. How do we go about finding out if the property has a lien? Okay, that's a great question. I usually just call the county. I just call the county, because every lien is recorded against the deed, and the county is the one. It's just the same as the affidavit and memorandum that I just said you should file. It's in the same place. So just contact the county and they can tell you. Michelle Peng asks, how did you find this deal? Michelle, I find all my deals by sending out a 2-page blind offer to each property owner that fits my criteria. And then if they see the offer and they call me, I know I've got a pretty hot prospect right there. Sometimes they're hot because they're they're mad. They're hot mad. But usually that's how I get, 100% that's how I get my properties. Some of you may know that I've been mentoring a small group of people, and in doing so, I've pulled back the curtain to show exactly what I'm doing in my business by creating an A to Z step-by-step blueprint showing exactly how I've been able to average about $35,000 on every deal. And I've decided to release a beta version of this blueprint to see if I can help others get started in their land investing business. And I'd like to find a few people who'd be willing to provide constructive feedback on it for a 50% discount. It would be a self-study, and you could join my private Facebook group and chat with me there every day as questions arise. And then once you finish going through it and implement all the strategies and the deals start to flow in, then if you want me to review your deal, then you could just joint venture with me and I'll consult with you on exactly what to do. We'll strategize every week on a live Zoom Q&A, and we'll get you all the way to the closing table. So if that would interest you, send me a private message here on Facebook or email chris@landflipping101.com. It's great seeing you all. I actually have an offer to purchase right here. So I'm not only funding a deal today, also putting a deal under contract today. So I need to go and get to that. But please keep leaving me messages. I love hearing from you. I love knowing what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve. I think you can do this business. I think it's super easy. It's not simple. There are a lot of steps, but it's super easy. You can do it, and I'll be happy to help you. So keep in touch. Bye.